Thank you so much for joining us at Thursday Night Bible Study. This
Yes.
is our Women's Month. It's been so good so far.
Yes.
We have many topics that we have talked about. Our first one, we was talking about Eve and Esther, about God's timing. The second one, we talked about Ruth and Sarah, talking about patience. Patience is a virtue.
Amen.
We talked about, as far as our next topic, was talking about our sacrifice. And this one, we're going into two topics of bad girls.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that manipulation of that bad girl. But first, I want to introduce our panel tonight. We have Pastor Reynolds joining us today. We have Sister Shaquila's joining us as well. And welcome back as far as First Lady Beard. And my name is Kiana. We're over the women's department, and we are excited as far as about what we're going to be talking about today. We will be talking about Jezebel and Bathsheba.
Yes.
Everybody know the story of Jezebel. Everybody know how she was.
Yes.
But Jezebel did have some mighty roles as far as in her life. She was a wife of a king. Most people don't talk about that she was as far as a queen. Even though she was a manipulator, she was a queen.
Yes. Yes.
And with her, as far as her main thing that she did, she influenced a lot of stuff that happened throughout the Bible and throughout the reign of her husband.
Yes.
So we are going to first, as far as go in and read as far as about Jezebel and just one of the things she did, because we don't have all day to talk about everything she did.
Yes.
So if First Lady Beard, if you can read 1 Kings 21, we're going through 5 through 16.
But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee thy vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders to the nobles that were in the city dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letter, saying, Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people, and set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him to bear witness against him, saying, Thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him that he may die. And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants in the city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and it is written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed the fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with the stones that he died. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of thy vineyard of Naboth, thy Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money. For Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth, and the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, to take possession of it.
That's a lot in that by itself.
Yes.
So with Jezebel herself, she saw that her husband wanted this vineyard.
Yes.
He, as far as Nahab, wouldn't give it up to him.
Right.
Wouldn't say, no, this is my inheritance. I'm not giving you this. I want to keep this in my lineager.
Right.
He went back and told Jezebel. She took it into her hands
She
did.
to say, hey, I'm going to get this for you.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
Yes.
Sit back. I'm going to get it for you.
Yes.
And then she took it in her hands to say that he was blaspheming God and the king when he didn't do neither one.
That's right.
Yeah,
And it shows that it has an injustice of power abuse of power, and it highlights the misuse of royal power because they were in such high standard. She had the ability and the capability to send the people out to accuse him of something wrong that he never even did.
Right.
Yes.
And so that was just injustice altogether. And so when we look at Jezebel, she just kind of manipulated the situation. She had this man killed really for no reason. I understand that she wanted to please her man and do this for her man, but she went about it the wrong way.
Yes.
Right.
Would you ladies agree?
Yes, I agree. I mean, and then even looking at Jezebel, I mean, I will applaud her because she is a wife and a queen. You know, she saw her husband and he was down, he wasn't eating. And, you know, I think as us as women of God, you know, we look at our children and they're sad, or we look at our husband and he's sad. You know, we're like, what do you need me to do? I'll go do it. Now, that part of it I did love, but the fact that she did it in that way, it was just wrong.
And then she even had two, it says scoundrels in my version, to sit there to help bring these charges. So we see that a part of her manipulation was she included something legal. And a lot of times when people are up to no good, they will have some type of something that would appear to be on the up and up. So what she did, she knew that it would take two witnesses in order to establish guilt and to have him punished. So she really worked that.
She did. And so we want to look at her characteristics. We know that every time, I know back in the day when we were in church and, you know, if somebody had some kind of spirit, you know, they will always say, she got that Jezebel spirit. And so you don't really know what a Jezebel spirit is until you actually delve into the Word of God, and then it explains to you what it was that she was trying to do. Yes, she did manipulate. She did call in the scoundrels to accuse. So it was false accusations. And so all around the board, she was just wrong. And we realized, she was trying to do something good to help her. Well, so she thought it was something good to help her husband because she saw that he was sad. And like you said, we as women, we're going to do whatever we can to put a smile on our husband's face. But when we're doing something like that, we want to be able to say, okay, you did good. We didn't have to manipulate. We didn't have to accuse anybody. Most importantly, we didn't have to have anybody killed.
Exactly.
And so he obtained that property, and I would say that it had blood on the property. Blood. She had blood on her hands, but she was satisfied that she had gotten him killed, and now she told him to arise and go and get the property. Right.
And with Jezebel, even herself, she did so many things that was wrong and done the wrong way. Like I felt like as far as she thought she had good intentions with what she did, but it was so much stuff that she did to change the dynamics of what was going to happen. And then even when it came to just her ending, her demise, like she thought, they thinking, oh, she going to be buried like a queen, she going to be buried like a daughter of a king, but then at the end, she was just eaten by dogs. So she did so much wrong as far as two people, even with her trying to sacrifice and trying to make sure as far as her husband is happy and trying to please her husband. She did everything as far as in the wrong way. I can't find like some good that she did.
That's what I was thinking while you were talking. I said, you know, it's hard to applaud her because if you look at this as an isolated incident, then maybe so. But when you look at the background and the character, even from the beginning, I mean, she had them worshiping false gods. I mean, she everything she touched, went down.
That's true.
So she really, so even in appealing to maybe her husband, it seems that it was more about building herself up. I'm going to save the day. I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to use my authority, my control, and my power.
It's like she was trying to be the ultimate ruler. Like it seemed to me when I was reading, her husband may have been a good king, but he was kind of weak in her eyes. So she felt like, as far as that, hey, now I need to take control because he's not stepping up to do what he needs to do as a king. He needs to rule. He needs to take over lands. He needs to do all of these things that he moping and crying over a vineyard.
Yes.
So now I'm like, okay, now I have to make sure he has some backbone because it looks like he just have a weak spine.
Yeah.
But he probably would have went to everything in a gentler way because even with reading the story, he was trying to pay him for the vineyard.
Yes.
He was trying to give him some money or give him another vineyard that he could have. He just wanted that one because it was close to his property. So he probably would have, the story would have ended a lot different, but Jezebel was like, no. If he don't want to give it to you, we're going to take it.
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what she did. She plotted, okay? She schemed.
Yeah.
And everything that she set out to do, and she even wrote the letter in Ahab's name and got his stamp.
Yes.
And so that was right there manipulation because she looked at it like, okay, if they see that this is coming from the king, then they're going to follow through with the plans because they probably, if she would have just proclaimed, this is what I want you to do, if it didn't come from the king, then it wasn't going to be done.
Right.
And so she had to manipulate the situation so that way it would look like it, all of what she wanted to happen, it came directly from the king. And of course, they were going to follow the king's orders.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they did. When they saw that proclamation for, it said, a proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high amongst the people. And then the two men came and they began to accuse him of cursing the God. That's all it took. All it took was for them to say what he did, and they stoned him to death.
Right.
And an innocent man died because of one woman.
Yes. And I thought about it too, is if the elders went and fasted, was they fasting and praying during that time? Because if they were praying to God, he would have gave them a different answer. But was this situation had to happen to go the way it did?
Right. Right.
And I was just thinking to those that are viewing to just sort of think about what type of person do you think that manipulators are drawn to? When you think about, as Sister Kiana said, you know, her husband was weak. So a lot of times manipulators, they are looking for someone to prey on, someone that's weak, someone that they can undermine their authority, that they can have their way. And so, you know, just sort of think about that as you're listening and sharing with us today.
Right.
Who do you think is a prime target for manipulators?
Yes,
so
that's
drop
good.
that in the comments.
Yes.
You know, type in the comments who you think people and maybe you have been that person one day. You know, back in your past.
Right.
Thank God for deliverance.
Yes.
So just type in the comments who you think these type of people are drawn to. But thank God for deliverance.
Yes.
That we don't have to be like Jezebel or have that Jezebel spirit anymore. So that's definitely a blessing.
Definitely a blessing. And as far as go into different manipulators, I want you, as we go through this topic today, you look out for manipulators for yourself.
That's right.
Because they could be the ones that's smiling in your face, just grinning, giving you a good word every now and then.
Exactly.
But they're changing your perspective on how you view God and how you're living your life.
Yes.
So I want you to put that in the comments yourself. Look out for manipulators.
Yes.
Because that's where we're going here. We're giving you some examples, but you have to spot them yourself. You have to pray about the people that's in your circle.
That's right.
In
That
your
is so
inner
true.
circle, because they may not be meant to stay. They may have been there as far as to teach you a lesson. They may as far as be there to be permanent, but you have to make sure God put them there.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And
Amen.
also, as far as other women that we talk about, we have another woman, Bathsheba. Now, Bathsheba could go either way. It could be good or bad. How we talk about her, because it started off with King David. Let's go ahead and talk about him for a second. He was something else. He was spiritual, but he also had that flesh side took over a lot of times in his story and his lifestyle. So when it came to Bathsheba, Bathsheba was already married. When David first saw her, he was peeping out his window.
He was.
And saw her bathing.
Yes.
He was like, oh, God, she's beautiful. I got to have that. I already got a wife, but I need that. I need her right there. Because she was just, in his sight, was beautiful. So he called for her. He brought her in, and now he didn't conceive the child with her.
Yes.
And like, what was funny as far as reading this story, even when he conceived the child, she was trying to go back home and lay with her husband to make it seem like it was her husband's child. But David was like, no, you ain't got to worry about that. So he called her husband as far as to the kingdom and he was about to go back home. Now I'm going to go back home. I'm going to see my wife before I got to go. And then David going to say, no, you stay at the tent. Don't worry about it. Just stay here. Stay with everybody as far as stay close. Then I'm going to send you out. So then he sent him out as far as into a war he knew he was going to lose and made sure that he was on the front line to die.
Yes.
And as soon as he died, he took Bathsheba as his wife.
Yes.
He let her grieve for a little bit. Let her give a few moments of grieving on her husband so it don't look bad. But then he took her in as his wife. And then after, as far as that point, the first child, they died. The first child they had died, and it wasn't as far as the right way to do it. They knew they was wrong. King David knew he was wrong. And then as far as at that point, they had another child. They had Solomon, and that kind of bring in that story of Bathsheba doing her bad side. So if you could, as far as read 1 King 1:15 through 31.
And Bathsheba went unto the king unto the chamber, and the king was very old. And Abishag the Shunammite ministered unto the king. And Bathsheba bowed and did obeisance unto the king. And the king said, What wouldest thou? And she said unto him, My lord, thou swear by the Lord thy God unto thine handmaid, saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon thy throne. And now behold, Adonijah reigned, and now my lord the king, thou knowest it not. And he said, Slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance, and have called all the sons of the king, and Abithar, the priest of Joab, the captain of the host. But Solomon thy servant hath he not called. And thou, my lord, O king, the eyes of all Israel are upon thee, that thou shouldest tell them who shall sit on the throne of my lord, and the king after him. Otherwise it shall come to pass, when my lord the king shall sleep with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon shall be counted offenders. And lo, while she yet talked with the king, Nathan the prophet also came in. And they told the king, saying, Behold, Nathan the prophet. And when he was come in before the king, he bowed himself before the king with his face to the ground. And Nathan said, My lord, O king, hast thou said, Adonijah shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon thy throne? For he is going down this day, and has slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance, and have called all the king's sons and all the captains of the host, and Abijah the priest, and behold, they eat and drink before thee, and say, God save King Adonijah. Was that the last scripture?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so when as far as going to this story is about with Bathsheba. She tried to conspire as far as with the prophet and say as far as with the prophet that my son Solomon should be the king. If he's not king, then we will be basically cast out. We won't be as far as anything, nothing as far, everything will happen to us, we'll go down. As soon as you die, that's going to be the end of us. So she was trying to make sure that her son became king. Now, it could have played out as far as with God, and he could have had this mapped out that King Solomon's supposed to be king, but Bathsheba took it upon her hands to fast the process, to speed it up a little bit, to make sure that in David's mind, this is what he wanted, instead of what it had to be played out by God.
And so we look at manipulation, we look at deceit, we look at backhanded stuff. You know, she's trying to put forth a plot so that whatever it is that she's thinking about, okay, my son is, regardless of what happened, my son is going to be the king. And we know that there are stories in the Bible where God has already told us what was going to happen. For instance, with Abraham and Sarah, that Sarah was going to have a baby, but they had to wait.
Yes.
And I believe that God already knew that Solomon was going to be the king. But had they waited upon the Lord and not manipulated, then it would have been no strings attached.
Yes.
Right.
And so we got to be patient with God. When God has told us something, trust and believe that it's going to come to pass. And while you're waiting, what are you supposed to do? Give God some praise for it. Because God has promised us some things. And, you know, we just like, okay, God, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? I need it to happen right now. Like I said before, my biological clock is ticking. I need to have a baby. I need to get married. I need to buy a house. I need to finish school. But we have to wait on God. And that's what she didn't do. She didn't wait. She didn't wait.
It reminds me of Rebecca.
Yes.
And how, you know, the plan was already set for Jacob to be the one. But when they had Esau and Jacob, how Rebecca worked with her son to, with her husband to try to fool him. You know, and so sometimes in our lives, we have to be careful because what we're doing and what I see throughout this theme is that we can be a good girl and slip over it into being a bad girl like that.
That's
you know, because we want what we want when we want it. And even though God has already said, this is the plan that I have for you. Are we willing to wait the time? You know, God's timing is the best time.
It is.
So we see the same type of manipulation and deceit throughout the Bible where people wanted to rush God's plan.
Yes. And it don't ever work out that way. We have to make sure we are patient, just waiting on God. And sometimes it's not going to happen in a year. It's not going to happen in 2 years. It's not going to happen in 3 years. But patience possess ye your soul. If you wait on God, if you wait on God, He's going to give you the desires of your heart. But the hardest part is just waiting because we don't want to be in a position where we lose faith in God. Because if He said it, He's going to bring it to pass. He's not a God that He's going to lie to us. And so just wait. Be patient. Go find something else to do while you're waiting. Because we get antsy and just start going crazy. I'm like, oh, Lord, when is it going to happen? When you said no, the Lord didn't say when it was going to happen. You don't be putting words in God's mouth. You just wait on God.
Just wait.
Just wait.
I mean, just reading this story back at 2 Samuel 11, this was a juicy story.
It was.
And it's almost like the stories that we read on TV or look at on TV today.
Yes, it is.
And I even think about with David, he pulled a Jezebel move.
Yes.
And I thought that was so ironic. I mean, him being the king, but, you know, for Bathsheba, just for what she did, being a manipulator and still trying to be that good girl, I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the word I was looking for that wouldn't come to me was deceit. When I was talking, it was deceit. So I just want to pose this question because sometimes we think that if we didn't outright tell a lie that we haven't done anything wrong. But I want us to think about how sometimes we can maybe deceive someone or set something up to make someone believe something. And so it's the same thing.
It is.
So, you know, I want us to think about that and maybe post on the page, have you ever experienced where someone, they didn't outright lie to you, but they set it up for you to believe what they wanted you to believe. Say amen if you had that experience.
Amen. They didn't lie to you, but they didn't tell you the truth.
That's right.
So it's the same difference. It's definitely the same difference.
And it's time and time again, as many examples as far as in the Bible as we study the women, that is a lot of these women, they map out plans for these men to follow. So they do as far as they scheme, they say what they need to say, they sweet talk, they, you know, bat their eyes, whatever
Their femininity.
Whatever they got to do to get
Yes.
what they need to have and what they need to do. I say, even talking back as far as with Sarai, as far as she brought everything to the plate for Abram. He could have said no.
Yes,
He could have been like, no, we're not doing this. You know, God spoke to me. He said, we're going to have a child. We just got to wait. But instead, he just took the bait. He got hooked on it. He was like, okay, you know what? Let me just appease my wife and let me
Yes.
just take this bait and let me go where I need to go. Even when it comes to Bathsheba, David is on his deathbed. I'm sure he's not thinking about who's going to be the next king. He's trying to think about, okay, did I have myself together? Did I have everything right? After all the stuff that I done did, am I good with God? But she came in there and was like, you know what? Let me twist your mind to it right now while you weak in the mind. Let me talk about it and say, hey, I need Solomon to be king. We have to be good. You know, you saw me from the window. You killed my husband. You know you liked me the most.
Yes.
You like me more than your first wife. I'm going to be... So we need to be set up for this. I can't be worried about what's going to happen after you die because you know she don't like me. So like, what plan are we going to have for ourselves? Like, what is going to be next? I can't be on the streets with my son. I don't have nothing. Like, I don't have a first husband or the husband as far as before. When you die, I don't really have any inheritance for this.
Right.
Her son is the reason why he's supposed to be the true ruler, not mine. So what are we going to do? We need to figure this thing out right now. Even though as far as in your mind you're not thinking about it, we need let's go ahead and talk about this real quick.
Right. And so even in that manipulation, if that's you, we're not saying it is you, but we want to pray and ask God for deliverance from manipulation, from deceitfulness, from evilness,
Mind control.
involvement in schemes, sin, anything that will separate you from God, from the love of God, from His Word. Then this is the opportunity for you to say, Lord, I'm sorry. Because sometimes we get caught up in these little twisted plots and plans. And like Sister Harris said, this Bible is juicy. You know, when you read these stories, it's just like you're watching it's like you're reading something from a daytime soap opera. But we don't want to get caught up in that plan.
Right.
We want to make sure that our hands are clean. You know, that we're lifting up clean and sanctified hands before God, because when it's our time to go, we want God to say, thy good and faithful servant. And so everything that we have done, if we were involved in it, no more. Today it stops. You can say, I quit. I quit. It's over. It's behind me. I'm just not going to allow Satan to manipulate me to be a manipulator. And so we don't want to be that kind of person.
Exactly.
We want, at this point, as far as in our life as women, we have to grow. We have to get encouraged in God. We have to read our Bible ourselves, because you can easily get manipulated by somebody telling you something. But when you read it for yourself, when you pray about it yourself, when you understand it yourself, nobody can sway you in any direction. Because all you could do, as far as at this point, you could stand on your own. You can hold your ground, because nobody can tell me nothing about God, because I already read about it. You can't sway me no other way, because I already experienced it. You can't tell me He don't provide, because I already experienced that myself. So when it comes to manipulation is really, if you get more of an understanding and a closeness and a relationship with God, then you won't have to be manipulated. Nothing will stand in your way as far as with the manipulation, because you have every tool that you need. He gives you everything you need in the Bible. Just read it. Take that time as far as to do it. Don't let the life and time and say, I don't have enough time to do this. Wake up early if you got to. Go to bed late if you have to. But take that time as far as in that experience with God, because He will change your whole day. He will change your whole perspective. He will change as far as every direction you go in your life. because nobody can influence you of where you're going, because now you're standing on your own. And that's the whole point as far as with these ladies that we're talking about today. They were able to manipulate because they caught somebody at their weakest moment. That's the part when you catch somebody to be able to manipulate. When you're depressed, you're at your weakest moment, you don't feel strong enough, just pray, hold on to faith, hold on to God, and he will be there for you. And I just want to thank you as far as for being a part of our Thursday night Bible study. We have one more series after this to be able to close out the good girl versus the bad girl. I want you to keep in mind as far as that the last one we'll be talking about, that raffle that we're going to do, is talking about as far as the different topics that we had going forward. We have talked about God's timing. We've talked about patience, sacrifice, and manipulation. So stay tuned as far as for the last topic. I can't wait to see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. It is Pastor Davis. I am taking out a moment to just personally thank you for being with us today. When you are here, you are family, and we want to stay connected with you. You're always welcome to come and be with us in person, or you can follow us on all of our online platforms. If you want to partner with us, technology has made it so easy for you to do so. Partner with us in your giving. And until I see you again, God bless you.